Today we have a walk-in cooler that has 2 evaporators. The customer's saying it's high in temp. If I pop up here, right in here, yeah, 42, cool, 42. So let's open it up and look. I don't see any ice from where I'm looking right now. We're definitely gonna have to jump on the roof, but let's get this cover pulled off real quick. All right, no ice, none in there. This is a Heatcraft quick response controller. Not really much more going on. We're calling for cooling on both coils. I can see it on the other one too. And that just means we need to kind of go up onto the roof and see what's going on up there. All right, just come up the hatch. My walk-in cooler equipment is right here. Ah, look at that. There is a bag wound all in there, stuck around the condenser fan motor. We're gonna be lucky if it's not burnt up. Let's open the top and dig into this. I don't know what this is about. There's plastic bags all up here. And then if you look, it like sucked it through here, all the way into here. Dang, it's all wound around that. So I gotta get all this out to see if this motor will restart or if it's locked up. All right, I got all the plastic out. Motor spins. It's hot as all get up. What's the odds it starts back up? Negative. Okay, but it could be off on thermal, or it could have burnt itself up. That's the question, we don't know. All right, well, I'm gonna open up the electrical section. We're gonna test voltage, make sure we actually have voltage. Does this guy have a fan cycle switch? I see a high pressure control, a temperature safety, and a low pressure control. I don't see any fan cycling on this, so that condenser fan motor should be running. Come over here, it is a PSC motor, so we have a capacitor right here. So power's off, I pulled the pulled the wires off. We're gonna test to see what the capacitor is doing. 5.6 microfarads, it's a 7.5. So we're definitely out of spec, but is that the only problem is the question. Let me go see if I have a 7.5 cap. It'll give it a little bit more time for that motor to cool off. I don't know if it has a thermal overload in it or not. It may or may not. I think it probably does, but we'll see. We'll let it cool off for a minute. All right, it turned back on. Put a new cap in there. It's running under current. It's currently at 2 amps, and I can't get a look at the data plate because it's under the motor bracket, but according to this right here, it's allowed to run 3.5. Now, the bearings in the motor don't sound too amazing either. They're kind of squeaking. The unit just satisfied, more than likely, because the board downstairs probably pumped the system down. It'll go into a superheat lockout, no superheat change, and it'll pump the unit down on an error. So let's go down there and look at the board and see if we're off on a lockout. So I came down here and it was like, it was still saying cool, but it was pumped down. It was weird, I don't know. So I just cycled power. Both of them went into pump down. Both of them say off. You guys can't see it, but over there, that one says off too. They're communicating, so we're gonna wait for it to turn back on. It's in a delay right now, and then we'll go up and make sure that motor starts back up. All right, I forced it by resetting the timers, so I forced it into cooling mode. So now let's head up top and see if it's cooling. All right, we are running. Condenser fan motor's running. It should start cooling off. It's still pretty warm, but the air coming over, it'll help to cool it. It's not that hot outside. It's probably like 80, so that motor's really hot. 2 amps, again, we're rated, what did I say, like 3.9, 3.5. So that's cool. Sight glass, we're gonna give it another minute. It's kind of bubbling, but it's probably just loading up the coil, so give it a minute. And the sight glass, mind the wind noise, sorry. The sight glass is cleared up. The unit's running, we're under current on the motor. Now, I'm probably still gonna change that motor. I don't know how long that plastic was wrapped around there, if it damaged any of the windings inside of it. It was off on some sort of thermal, but what was weird was I had resistance across the motor. I turned on the switch, it didn't turn on. And then it did, and it's running. So, it's a Saturday right now. It's May 18th. I'm not gonna open a supply house to get that motor because it's running. We'll order a new motor and come back out probably Monday or Tuesday, as long as they make it through the weekend, which I'm sure they will. But yeah, I'm gonna go downstairs, make sure it comes down to temp. I'm gonna start assembling the top right here, and I'm gonna get home and go out to dinner with my wife, because that's what we were gonna do. And we are already down to temp. Yeah, we're looking good. 36 degrees in the box. Customer's happy, already talked to them, made sure they were okay with me going ahead and replacing that motor. Like I said, I told them it's working, but you know, I'd rather replace and just be done with it. So they're good with that too. So we're gonna come back, and I also found that one of their ACs, the kitchen AC, one of the 3 compressors has a low pressure code. So they're gonna put in a work order for that, and we'll tackle that next week too. So that's it for this one, and we'll get back out here next week and get that motor replaced. All right, I am back today. It's been a couple days. That motor sounds like junk. We'll take this cover off and then we'll listen to it. I'm gonna just shut it off for now. Do have to remember that because this has, and see the blade is stopping really fast too. So you can tell the bearings are going out in it. This motor, or this unit has the QRC evaporators downstairs, so it's actually gonna likely go off on an error because it's not gonna see a change in superheat. So just the FYI, I might have to reset that, but we're gonna get this cover pulled off and have a look at this motor. There it goes. Yep, so we definitely got a bad motor. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and get that pulled out. Now, I decided not to use an OEM replacement because it was just way too much money. So we are gonna use an aftermarket motor. Let's get it pulled out so we can verify the specs, and then we'll see what we gotta do to make it work. All right, aftermarket motors can be tricky, okay? First and foremost, if you look at the OEM factory motor, 1075 RPM, 208 volts, 1/3 horsepower, 2.7 amps. Okay. You can never trust the horsepower on OEM motors. You always have to pay attention to the horsepower and the current. You have to use both of those, okay? This looks like a 1/3 horsepower body, but the 2.7 amps is a little strange because a standard off-the-shelf 1/3 horsepower condensed fan motor is gonna run, it has a lower current rating, meaning it can do this much work, spin 1075 RPMs, but it's gonna use 2.7 amps, right? This one right here is a 1/2 horsepower. Notice it's at 3.2 amps, okay? So we're gonna bump up because we're using an aftermarket, but we still gotta be careful. There's still a possibility that there's something funky going on inside this motor. I've seen really weird things, okay? So you always gotta check current after. Now notice too, this thing, it just, the bearings are knocking inside that thing. It's bad, and there's still plastic wrapped around that thing, so definitely a problem. Now this is a 48Y frame. That's the size of the motor. This is a 48Y. Notice that the stack is taller, okay? So we have to keep that in mind. We're gonna have to cut the shaft. So there's a lot of things we gotta consider here when we're doing this. I actually ended up not having to cut the shaft. We've got plenty of room. We have about 1.5 to 2 inches before the condenser, so that's cool. Then what I did was I marked where the blade sat in the housing. See that little mark? I did it right there too. So I marked it so that way I'd know where to set the blade. So we've got our blade set right there. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it down, and then we'll work on wiring it up. I did remove the drain plugs out of the backside. On a vertical mount like this, it's not as critical, but still pay attention to your drain plugs. You definitely don't want to leave the drain plugs or the wheat plugs in or out on this side, because this is where the air comes through when it rains. It would, in theory, potentially push water into the motor. So leave the drain or wheat plugs in on that side. We are all installed, wired in. I just used quick connects right there. I think I'm gonna change this contactor too, but we'll pull the cover off in a few minutes. But I got a new capacitor because the old one was a 7.5. Blade's where it's supposed to be, spins good. I'm still gonna zip tie some stuff in a minute too, but I wanna check the rotation of the motor. Let's see if it's going in the right direction. It's going in the wrong direction. So I need to switch the rotation by flipping any 2 of these wires. All right, change the wires. So it was yellow to yellow, orange to orange. We just switched it orange to yellow. Then I zip tied this. Notice that I'm not zip tying to the bracket because you don't want the wires touching the bracket. They can rub out. So I ran a zip tie through a zip tie. So let's see what we're running for current. 2.64 amps, 2.65. We're allowed to run 3.2. So that's gonna work good. I think it should be pumping down, but we're gonna let it run for a minute and then we're going to open up that contactor and have a look at that. All right, I pulled the motor apart. 2 reasons why I wanted to change the motor. Number 1, it was just sitting there stuck overheating, and I was worried about the windings. It also looks like it's slightly made contact in here, a little bit, but second, the bearings are shot. So this one, it spins, but it's loud. This one is just about locked up, and that plastic's all stuck inside of it. So, all right, this guy is back and running on its own. It must not have gone off on an error, that or it auto reset or something. But it's running, we're moving the air, the blade's where it's supposed to be, so that's good. Like I said, I'm cleaning up, and then I'm gonna pull the cover off this contactor and have a look, because I see that white powder stuff all over it. When you're looking at these contactors and you start to see this whitish powder over in these sides, it usually indicates that there's been arcing going on. So you pull off the cover and you can see some brown blackening going on in there. And then back in here, it's not horrible, definitely not horrible, but it has been arcing, and I can see some darkness back in there. So we're gonna go ahead and replace the contactor too, just as a preventative measure, and hopefully be done after that. It's inevitable that you're gonna see arcing on these points because it's an open contactor, okay? These are not the worst that I've seen. They're not the best, you know? They're definitely slowly starting to pit. This one's looking pretty bad right there. So over time, the rapid on-off, well, it shouldn't be rapid on-off, but the on and off is gonna create arcing, especially when it disengages, and that's where you're gonna get that pitting. So it's important. Again, you know, this might have lasted, well, this would have lasted a little bit longer, but we're here, we're giving them a full service. You know, they want us to take care of the equipment and eliminate future problems, and that's what we did. We changed out the contactor preventatively. Everything's good. I just need to wait for it to turn back on and make sure everything's good. That was kind of crazy, right? Having a plastic bag wrapped around there. That I'm not going to say that's the first time I've seen that. No, I've actually seen that before on a walk-in cooler too. Another one of the Heatcraft ones. There's a little tiny space underneath the condenser, maybe 3/8 of an inch. And when the customers, especially I've seen it where the condensing units are located on the back dock where they have trash cans and stuff. But in this situation, that wasn't the case. This one was all the way on the roof. Go figure, right? And there was one that was sucked in the unit, and then there was the whole, it's like one of those big giant 55-gallon trash bags or whatever. Big giant thing. But yeah, crazy. So I got it going, right? But when I went to go start the motor, it was kind of weird. It took a little, I don't know why I didn't have footage of that, but it took a little while to restart. Like the first time I did it, it didn't start. You guys saw that when I turned the switch on, but then the next, I can't remember if it was in this video or not. I'm having a brain fart right now, but regardless, the motor was kind of weird, but then I got it to start, but I went ahead and talked to the customer. They were good with it. We picked up a motor, came back out, replaced it, and then preventatively replaced that contactor, which the contactor wasn't horrible, but it was right there. And again, I talked to the customer about that too. And you know, between us, we made the decision that it was going to be best to go ahead and replace that too, eliminate that future problem. And the system's been operating. Now I even have been out there to work on something else, checked on the walk-in again, and everything was good. So all is well with that one. Not too difficult. In this situation, I get people that ask me, I will always get equipment going. I'm there for emergencies. I'm there to, you know, get it up and running, but I don't want to spend all day long there. And when I'm on overtime, it's more of a triage type situation. If I can get it running, sometimes with a temporary fan motor or something like that, I'll do so until I can get back with the right parts. Or, you know, sometimes I'll do it. I mean, if I have to change a compressor or something like that on overtime, I'll do it, right? But I always prefer, if I can, to just get them going and then come back and finish it up when I can take a little more time. Spend a little more time, go through the equipment, make sure everything's okay. I don't feel rushed, especially for, you know, customers that don't do routine maintenance and such. You know, like, it's not that I don't care, but at the same time, I'm not going to spend my entire weekend, you know, trying to clean up something that could have been prevented, kind of a situation. Now, this really wasn't a preventable situation. I mean, I guess it was if they would have, you know, had someone going on the roof looking for trash or something like that. And in theory, if we were here doing a routine maintenance, hopefully we would find bags on the roof and stuff. But, you know, regardless, in this situation, I got them operational. Then I came back out, changed the motor because I wanted to go out to dinner with my wife and have the rest of my weekend, you know, to be able to enjoy it. So it is what it is. Everybody does things differently. If you don't do things that way on your overtime calls, then it's cool. I'm not judging anybody. This is just, you know, how we do things. And remember, these videos really, like, I totally know that they are, you know, geared towards multiple people now, but the core of these videos was I started them for my employees. And that's, you know, the core of them now still to this day is, you know, I'm talking to my employees like this is how we do things, right? If someone else like you that's watching this that doesn't work for me and you get value from it, then that's great, you know. But, you know, this is how we run things, okay? And again, I'm not judging you for doing things any differently, but I really do appreciate you making it to the end of the video as usual, okay? If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. You know, really easy. Just hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. Helps you to get notified when I'm uploading. My uploads are pretty consistent. Every once in a while I skip one, but, you know, I try. Also, if you want to go to my website, hvacrvideos.com, we have merchandise. We have these hats right here, which put a lot of effort. These are pretty popular. Black underbill, flex fit hats that have the HVACR acronym right here in my color scheme. They're breathable, really nice. I really dig the black underbill. That was something really important when I was going through the hat design process, because something that annoyed me is the white underbill or the gray underbill gets so, you know, gummed up with fingerprints and stuff from work that these ones at least somewhat hide it. Now, I have a hat that I wear for personal, and then I have a work hat. I actually have a couple work hats because I go through them pretty good. Cool thing, I know a dude that sells them, right? So I can just get them for free. You know, it's kind of like that. Not really free, but you know what I mean. But anyways, hvacrvideos.com. You can also support the channel via PayPal, Patreon, or YouTube channel memberships if you're interested in doing so. There's links in the show notes of this video. Last but not least, TrueTechTools.com. If you use my offer code BIGPICTURE, one word, at checkout, on majority of the items on their website, you'll get a discount, and then I get a small commission from that. So it's an affiliate link. It's a great way to help support the channel. You see any tools that you like using, or you know, that I use in my videos that you like, check it out. Majority of the time I get a good amount of my tools from TrueTechTools.com. So that's why, you know, when I decided to start working with them, and you know, we mutually talk to each other, which actually was like the first symposium. The first symposium was when I actually got to meet Bill Spone, Eric Preston in person. And Billy Spone, I think, was there that year too, I think. But anyways, it was cool, and, you know, they're a cool company. So, you know, it kind of works, and I like their products, and, you know, it's all good. Same thing with Sporlan, you know, Parker Sporlan, my main sponsor for my channel. You know, it was really easy when they contacted me when I first started making videos, because, you know, I've always used their products. My dad always taught me to use their products. He always used them, you know. So, you know, when we started working together, it's just really easy. And I try not to push things down your guys' throats, you know. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that using this or using that is the only way. It's just the way that I do things. And if you choose to use the products that I use, that's great, you know. But it's really awesome to have the partners that I have. Parker Sporlan, TrueTech Tools, Refrigeration Technologies. Those are my consistent partners, and it's really awesome to have those people, and I'm very thankful for them. So when you guys get an opportunity, if you like something that they offer, I encourage you to support them too. So anyways, I really do appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, like I said, consider subscribing to the channel. Now I'm going to say something else too. I really don't plug it very much, but if you also are interested, I do a very, very uncensored YouTube show with my friends on Friday evenings on the HVAC Overtime YouTube channel. It is a live stream. It's the HVAC Overtime show. And again, very, very uncensored. But if you're interested in checking it out, it's a fun thing. The best way I could explain it is, imagine 4 guys that are 3 to 4 beers deep, maybe even 5 beers deep, right? At the bar, just talking about work sometimes, maybe not work sometimes. And that's where the show starts. It's usually a bunch of nonsense, us hanging out, and it's a cool time. So HVAC Overtime YouTube channel, check it out.